Hi, this is Scott Gallant of Porvenir Design, and we are back here at Naomi and Mar's homestead looking at a future banana patch.
Hello, I'm Banana Boy. And Scott, we have a space right here allotted for the bananas right here. In July and August, a nice little naciente or water flows right here. I know you mentioned the bananas like water.
Yeah, the reason we like bananas here, one, it's a naturally wet area, which bananas like to be in, and the bananas are going to be a good kind of between the road and the privacy barrier that's going here and the garden that's going on that side. And we want to make sure we don't block the sun for the garden. So we don't want anything here that's going to get really big. So these are going to be smaller fruit trees. We have the dwarf coconuts. And at the same time, this space could change in the future. Maybe the garden wants to expand in here and bananas go elsewhere. And so bananas are a great piece to our homestead for short-term use. And maybe they're here forever and you just keep growing bananas here for, you know, until you're 70 years old, banana man, not banana boy.
That's definitely going to be the case.
And they're easy to move and put other things with them. And so that's what we were talking about is what can we incorporate in with these bananas. And it's really up to you. You could do a ton with bananas. They're really nice for changing the microclimate. So they grow up quick. They produce a lot of shade. Their trunks hold a lot of moisture, so they become really good biomass, good mulch for the site. What we have to be careful with bananas and intercropping with them is that they tend to fall over. And they do that because of diseases on the roots, in particular nematodes, and then just seasonal winds coming and knocking them over, the erosion at their base of the small amount of water that's going to flow through here. So anything that we're planting with the bananas needs to not be destroyed by the big leaves falling, the trunks falling as you harvest them. So let's definitely keep that in mind. When I think about this space, you know, one of the main questions I would want you guys to think about is banana varietal selection. So we could come in here with 15 different varieties. We could show up with a package of bananas. Some of those are going to do better here. Some of those are better in the kitchen. Some are more novelties. Budahan or thousand finger bananas isn't that tasty, but it looks really interesting. Do you want to use space for things like that? Or do you just want to go ahead and put in what is the hardiest, most resilient banana variety that you can find and drop that in here? And so that's something for you guys to consider. And then the main thing I would emphasize to try to do this really well, bananas, we think of them like a lot of things in the tropics, like you just throw them in the ground and they grow and you get bananas. And that can be true. We can also care for them a lot better. So we can really treat the roots really well. And we can go ahead and apply like some antifungal ferment, some anti-nematode ferments to the root ball, to the hole when we go to plant. And that's going to go a long way toward making sure that this stand of bananas is here for the next 5-10 years and isn't just kind of falling over. And so that's something I would really recommend doing.
We basically know very little about how to cultivate bananas and plant bananas. I've heard from actually your video on your channel, Porvenir Design. You guys, over at the farm that you work at, you have a banana and then you have boton de oro and then banana. And does the boton de oro, is that for the nitrogen fixing? Does bananas actually need nitrogen to work, or how does it work?
So bananas are a heavy feeder. They do like lots of fertility. So if you apply, you know, cured manure or compost, they're going to be a lot happier. The boton de oro, or the Mexican sunflower, it's considered a phosphorus accumulator. And so you could incorporate the bananas in with boton de oro and with some sort of nitrogen fixing plant, such as the Madero Negro. That's the really common fence line species. All of those work by cuttings, right? And so we can, if we look at modern agriculture, the main macronutrients that are being applied are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so if we use a plant like Madero Negro that brings nitrogen to our system, the boton de oro brings phosphorus, and the bananas are really high in potassium. And so we can get that same macronutrient kind of collection of minerals, nutrients right here in this site with those 3 plants.
Without like synthetic fertilizers.
Exactly, yeah. And I think you can look at other things to incorporate in here. I think tubers are gonna work great, things for pollinators, but even like this malanga coming up everywhere, right? This is yampi actually,
yeah,
sorry,
yampi.
yeah, yampi. This is a great food source. You know, this is a market crop. And as you can see, it's just coming up, right? This was all planted here. This field's been in yampi. It's also been in yucca. You can see the yucca coming up here. These want to be here. These are great staple crops, right? These are really high sources of carbohydrates. So can we transplant these, put them exactly where you want them, and give them the actual care that they want? And you might find that you also are getting a lot of carbohydrates in 6-9 months, which is going to produce before the bananas. So this might be actually your first source of carbohydrates before the bananas, plantains, cuadrados, whatever else we put in here, start producing. Because these are already here, you don't have to go buy this seed stock. We know they are happy here. Focus on something like this. You want a diversity of roots in here.
Okay.
All the roots are participating. You want deep roots and shallow roots. What these are also going to do is something that we often call tilling with tubers. And so the yucca does the same. We were just talking about the yucca field over there. You know, should we leave this yucca? Like as that root expands and expands and expands, you know, maybe some creature is going to come and eat it. Maybe you harvest it. Maybe it just is there and it rots. But that's one way to get organic material into lower soil horizons without really doing any work. And so that's a way of, we can think of tilling, of building the soil by incorporating organic material without actually having to disturb the soil. These crops do a really nice job of that.
As you look through the space right now, how would you design this area here to maximize as much bananas as possible, but also to maximize the success of them long term?
Yeah. Probably what I would do is I would start at this top corner. I would come 3 meters off of that, and I would start triangulating your bananas from there. You could do them in rows across here if you wanted. You can think about the aesthetics you want. I could imagine this space being a little bit more wild in aesthetics, because this is going to be kind of an orderly pattern, right? And so you can imagine that balance of the order of the garden, these clear beds working with the natural topography of the land, with something that is a little bit more wild here, a little bit more spot planted. And so I would take these bananas and work off the trees you're putting in the ground, come 3 meters away from them, put bananas in, and come 3 meters away from that, put another banana in, another banana, another banana. That's a good starter spacing, yeah. Think about strata. So think about the layers. We're always imitating the forest in our work here because we're working with perennial plants. So the banana is what we call the emergent layer. It goes up and it pops up. You think of like a coconut or a pejibai, something that emerges out of the canopy. Then we want something in the mid layer. That might be the botón de oro, the Mexican sunflower. And then we want something lower, which can be the yampi. And so as you put those in here, think about that stacking. And so like your low layer, you want almost 100% of the ground covered. The emergent, you only want like 20% covered. You want light to filter through to the other layers, which is how the forest works, right? You have some tall trees, but enough light gets lower and lower and lower for everything else to survive. And with that, hopefully this will be a highly productive banana system for our clients that love bananas.